Today we are making pickles and I think we're gonna have some fun. So I'm gonna make three kinds of pickles. I'm gonna make classic dill pickles, I'm gonna make spicy pickles, and I'm gonna make garlic pickles. And I'm actually going to lacto-ferment the pickles, which means there's not going to be any vinegar. Pickles that you buy at the store or that maybe you've made at home before, traditionally you can use vinegar, and it just sort of speeds the fermentation process along. I'm going to lacto-ferment the pickles, which is basically just like a salty, briny solution. And what happens is that the bacteria is going to break down the natural sugars in the cucumbers, and that's going to create like the pickled feeling and the pickled taste. So it's a really natural fermentation process. So I've got a ton of little cucumbers here. These are not large cucumbers. These are just better for pickling. I've got a bunch of dill. Well, technically I have 2 bunches of dill. I have an entire head of garlic, pickling spices, a pepper, and I'm just going to walk you through how we're doing it. So this is just going to be the first step, and then I will check back in the next couple days because I have to burp the pickles because I'm going to use these glass bottles that have tight lids, and then the water in here is just filtered water. I'm not using water directly from the sink, but I didn't want to buy like a jug of distilled water, so this is just from my filter in the fridge. And I'm going to move you guys closer so you can like see what we're doing up close and personal, and let's get started. So we're moved closer, you can't see me anymore, but that's okay. And as you can see, I have the cucumbers, I have all of this. The first thing I'm going to do is actually take, this is about 3 quarts of water, it's a little bit less. I just put it in the jar so I knew how much I was using. But I'm going to take the filtered water, and basically I'm just going to dissolve 7 or 8 tablespoons of salt into the water. These jars are clean, they're brand new. You want to make sure that your jars are really, really clean, because anything on there that can mess with the fermentation process will mess with the fermentation process. So these are clean. All they've had is that filtered water from my fridge in them. You could use sea salt for this, but I'm going to use this just because sea salt comes out in like bigger chunks and it's easier to control the salt content with something like this. I hate opening this salt container. Like my mom and my sister will tell you, I absolutely hate the sound and the feeling of this metal piece coming up. Like, I'm gonna see if I can do this. I hate it. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. But anyway, I'm gonna take about 7.5 tablespoons of salt, and we're just gonna dissolve the salt. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this because I don't want it like boiling when we do the pickles. So I have washed all of these cucumbers already. So I'm just gonna go ahead, if they have like long stems, I'm gonna pull it off or cut it off. So like I said, these are obviously not regular cucumbers. These are actually Persian cucumbers. I think Kirby cucumbers are the ones that like traditionally get used for pickling, but just use whatever you want. I'm gonna use this. I'm probably gonna cut most of them in half. If there's a bigger one, I might cut them into quarters. And then if we have any leftover ones, I have a leftover pickle brine from pickles that I bought, and I'm just going to slice some up and throw them in there and see what happens. So I have fermented pickles on my own before. I actually took a class in college on fermentation, and we, excuse me, and we made pickles in that class with this method. And I just got really inspired the other day to make pickles after I went to like an artisan pickle store in San Diego. I just got super inspired. This is probably gonna make more brine than you actually need, but that's okay. It's just salt water. It was cheap to make. So this is about how many pickles we're gonna do per jar, because I need them to all stay below the brining liquid. That's really important when you're doing a fermentation. You need to make sure everything stays below the liquid. I don't have fermentation weights, so we're gonna see if everything will stay below on its own, and if it won't, I'll fashion something to keep the pickles down under the brine. So then I have pickling spices here. I bought a pre-made mix just because I didn't want to buy allspice and cloves. I have ground allspice and cloves at my house already. I bought them ground just because I bake and it's a little bit easier. I should have just bought the full ones and ground them myself, but you can totally make this. There's mustard seeds in here, there's coriander, there's cardamom, some cinnamon, allspice, cloves, crushed up bay leaves, pepper, and then I'm actually going to add more pepper because I'm unhappy with the amount that's in here. But you can totally make this on your own. It smells so good. While we're at it, I'm just going to take a couple of these I'm gonna cut up like some whole chips and maybe some smaller chips from some of these pickles, just to throw in the brining liquid we already have from the pickles I bought the other day, just because I want to see what happens. I mean, I'm sure it'll get pickled, but I'm just curious. So I bought this at a store in San Diego. It said garlic bomb pickles, and I was all about that. They were way too salty to actually eat, so I actually had to soak the pickles in water to get some of the salt out, and then I diluted this solution and added more garlic and more dill so that it was actually edible. But after that, it was good. So just let those flavors get to know each other. Look at that. Beautiful. Salt in the brine is like mostly combined, so I'm gonna go ahead and start building our first pickle. So I'm gonna take the dill, I took about half of one of the bunches, and we're gonna put that at the bottom. So I'm gonna take some of this, I don't know, whatever you think. Like, this is really like to taste. So, and then I'm gonna add some more black pepper because I didn't think that this had enough, and I like black pepper. I'm just gonna add, I don't know, 15 whole pepper kernels. I'm gonna try and get them to stand up so that they're in there nice and packed together. I might have to cut some of them because you want some head space as well with these. So I might just snap the larger ones in half, and we'll just have smaller pickles. So I'm gonna take some more of the dill. I'm actually gonna take more of this to put over here. I thought I was gonna use like 2 bunches of dill. Maybe I'll use more, I don't know. And then I'm gonna put this dill on top of the pickles. Just pack it in there. Okay, so the next part I'm gonna be really, really careful because this is still hot. Most of the salt is dissolved. You want the pickles to be completely covered, but you also want to leave an inch or 2 of headspace because they are going to ferment and there is going to be gas going on in here, and you're going to need to burp the pickles. So you want some headspace. Don't fill this all the way to the top with your pickles. You're just going to pour it in. Okay, I've got about an inch of headspace left, so I poured it just to where like the lip stops, but everything's in there. So now I'm going to take my lid. This is hot, so please be careful. But you do want every pickle to be covered. And look at how delicious this looks. And you can see the seeds at the top that are actually keeping the pickles down like quite nicely. Okay, next let's do the spicy pickles. So the difference is gonna be, I got this red Fresno chili that I'm gonna slice up really thin to put in there, and I'm gonna add some red pepper flakes. But the rest of the process is going to be extremely similar. I'm gonna stick some dill in here, but not as much. My neighbors are outside trying to park, so if you can hear that, that's them. So we're gonna use the pickling spices again, right at the bottom. I'm gonna add like half of these to the bottom. I'm gonna add the rest of these chilies in here. Kind of push some of them down. Oh, I didn't add the red pepper. That's okay, we'll get it in there. It'll distribute itself. So I'm gonna add a lot of this because these are supposed to be spicy pickles. Maybe half a tablespoon. Maybe a little more. I like spicy. That's the great thing about like doing something like this at home and fermenting yourself, is that you can really control how spicy something is, how much pepper's in there, what's going into it, and fill. And again, we've got about an inch of headspace. With this batch, I cut pickles, so I took like a half of them and I laid them in this way to kind of naturally create a weight for these. Like use the pickles to keep them down. And here you go. These are the spicy pickles. There's still a ton of the seeds down at the bottom, just a lot of them have floated to the top. So I've removed all of the spicy seeds from the last batch that we made, got all the spicy stuff out of the way so that we can focus on the garlic pickles. These are gonna be garlic pickles. Make no mistake about how much I love garlic. Now would be a really great time to have a garlic peeler, but It's okay if some of them get smashed because it's just gonna help the flavor get in there. I'm gonna try and keep them mostly whole, but again, it's okay if they get a little smashed. Garlic is sticky. You know, garlic is sticky as like a defense mechanism against animals. You know, when you're chopping garlic and it's just sticking to everything and your hands are covered in it. Yeah, it's the garlic trying to get you to stop eating it. But I won't. I'm going to finish peeling the garlic off of the camera so that you don't watch me peel garlic for the next 15 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next step. I think my neighbors are like having a party or something, so if it is loud. Okay, so this is what I have for garlic. They actually peeled a lot easier than I thought they were going to, so I actually didn't have to smash a bunch of them, so I just took it upon myself to smash a few of them, cut some of them open just to expose like the inside of the garlic clove. Some of you might think this is too much garlic, but well, you'd be wrong. I'm gonna take a lot of this. Actually, I'm gonna take like a third of the garlic, put it in there. Spices. I'm gonna take some of the dill that's left over. Okay, so now I've got a well in the center where I'm gonna put more garlic. I think it's kind of funny that I was like, my neighbors are having a party, so if you hear them, like, I'm sorry, and I'm making pickles. Like, such a difference for a Friday night. Look at the bottom of this. So much garlic. So now we have the 3 types of pickles. We have the classic dill here. The spicy pickles, which I think these are just gonna be phenomenal. And the garlic ones. And then we took some of the leftovers and just threw them into an already made pickle brine, just as an experiment. So these are gonna sit at room temperature for a couple days. I'm gonna burp them every day, so we'll check in on them tomorrow. Hopefully within 2 or 3 days, the liquid starts to get kind of cloudy. It is gonna look different than regular pickles like you just get at the supermarket. It is gonna get cloudy, and that means it's working. So we'll check back in tomorrow. Okay, and by the power of video editing magic, we're here on the 2nd day of the fermentation of the pickles. I decided to let them go 2 days instead of 1, like I said I was going to do, just because after checking them after 1 day, I thought that they could use another day. So we're here and we're going to check on the pickles, and we're going to talk about the fermentation process and how it's going, and I think it's going pretty well. So like I said before, this is a lacto-fermentation process, which means there's no vinegar. I'm basically just letting the pickles break down in this brine, and they're going to produce lactic acid, which is going to pickle and preserve the pickles. So the brine is going to look different if you're doing this at home. I have some leftover pickle brine from a store-bought pickle. You can see kind of what that looks like. It's not completely clear. There is like some cloudiness. It's green, like it's not clear, but it doesn't look like murky or cloudy. And that's what you want from a lacto-fermented pickle. So I'm going to show you the garlic pickle because I feel like it's really gotten the most cloudy. It's bubbling the most. That's another good sign. You can see the air bubbles up here. You want your pickles to have some bubbling. It means that the fermentation process is working. So check for bubbles. Check for some cloudy water. That's all a good sign that it's actually working. So those are the garlic pickles. The spicy ones, you can also see that they've started to change color. The brine is not clear anymore. Like, it definitely has some color to it. And then I found that the dills have been the slowest to sort of come along. They do have bubbles. They are bubbling slowly, but these are sort of like the slowest to come along. Another good sign that your fermentation is working and that the pickles are getting closer to being ready is that as they sort of soak up the brine, and the liquid, they'll sink to the bottom. They're not going to try to float anymore. Okay, so let's go ahead and open these and check them because you want to make sure, let me see if you can see the bubbling. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but they are bubbling. But you want to be sure that the good bacteria has taken over and has won, so you want to check the pickles. So I'm going to go ahead and open these to burp them, smell them, check them out, and see how they're doing. So we're going to start with the garlic ones. This is what we have going on. This smells phenomenal. You can really see the bubbling now. This is what you want to see in a fermentation. Let's go ahead and open another one and see what we have going on. This is the spicy pickle. Okay, You can see that one didn't bubble as much, but you can see that there are bubbles coming up through the brine. Oh, those also smell phenomenal. And now let's try the dills. I'm expecting these ones to bubble even less just because it seems like these ones are coming along a little bit more slowly. Yeah, didn't really need to burp those at all. So they all smell really, really great. None of them smell like they've gone bad or anything like that. I actually might make a little bit more of that saltwater solution just to pour on top and top some of this up because the pickles are soaking up liquid. I do want to try and give them a taste or a poke and just see how it's coming along texture-wise, flavor-wise. Because the great thing about fermenting your own pickles at home is that you can sort of control how fermented they are, how pickly they get. If you're going to preserve some of that cucumberness, you can really, really control this. So as soon as the pickles are ready to your desired doneness, you can go ahead and stick them in the fridge and switch to cold storage, and they'll stop fermenting when they're in the fridge. So this is one of the ones I had at the top. It definitely gives more than a cucumber. The end has softened up quite a bit. I'd say those are really close to being done. These garlic ones are like still just like really going at it. Hi, Stouty. Why are you whining? The dog is over here laying in the sun, but he's trying to get my attention now. What's up? What's up, puppy? Do you want a pickle? Say hi to the people, Stout. Say hi. So I'll check back in with you guys after I move these to the fridge and do a final taste test on them. So yeah, see you soon. It's pickle day. Literally. Today is literally National Pickle Day. We couldn't have planned this any better. So if you're watching this on the day I uploaded, it is actually National Pickle Day. The pickles are ready. They've been cold stored in the fridge for the last day because I like the pickles cold, so I had to get them cold before we tried them. It also stops the fermentation process. So I'll show you what the finished pickles look like. I'll go ahead and taste test them all, and then, I don't know, whatever happens after you eat pickles on National Pickle Day. That's what's next. So these were the classic dills. They soaked up so much water. Like, I kept adding fresh water and salt water back to these just because they were soaking up so much water. Here's what they look like. Like I said, I did like a 2-day ferment on these, but it's totally up to you because you can control it. So as soon as they're at the desired like consistency, texture, flavor that you want, go ahead and move them to the fridge and they're ready for cold storage. So you can see that the color has changed dramatically. They're a lot softer. These are a little bit salty for my taste, but not too bad. It's not overwhelming. They still have a good crunch to them. Overall, a great pickle. You will notice that if you make fermented pickles that they're going to taste a little bit different than store-bought pickles. There is like a fermenty quality to these. Like, you can tell that they've been fermented rather than just sitting in vinegar. So something to keep in mind, your pickles are going to look different. The brine that they're in is going to look different, but it's okay. One of the pickles actually started growing a yeast, and I'm going to show you what that looks like because it's completely safe. It's not mold. So maybe I'll insert a picture of like what mold looks like. So that you know if your ferment went bad or not. So these are the garlic pickles, and you can see that's garlic, but there is sort of this stuff at the bottom. It's not mold, it's a yeast. What you need to worry about on ferments is mold. And if you have mold on your ferment, it'll be at the top, it'll be round, and it'll be slightly bluish. This is floating around in the liquid, not coagulated together, not mold. It's perfectly safe to eat. So this is the color of the garlic pickle. So those ones are very, very garlicky, much more garlicky than the ones that I bought at the artisan pickle store. Those ones did turn out a little bit odd. They're not effervescent, but when you bite into it, it almost feels like a little bit like tingly, tangy, definitely different than a store-bought pickle. And finally, we have the hot pickles. I tried one of these the other day, and I actually think these ones are my favorite. They're not too spicy, so you saw that I added 1 Fresno pepper and some red pepper flakes to these. They're not too spicy at all. If you don't like spicy, these are totally fine for you. And this is what those look like. They all look like pickles. Yeah, I actually think these are my favorite. It's a very, very slow burn. It's not too hot at all. It's really, really lovely. And then we have the cheater pickles that I just threw into the leftover brine. You can see the color difference with this pickle. This is still really bright green. It still looks more like a cucumber. It's only a little bit softer than it was when it went in there. And it tastes like a cucumber that's just been sitting in some like salty, spicy, briny water. Really delicious, really refreshing, really crisp. So there you have it, lacto-fermented pickles, 3 ways, perfect for National Pickle Day. If you try to do a lacto-ferment on your own and it doesn't go right the first time, don't get discouraged. Pickles are a little bit harder, other vegetables are a little bit easier to lacto-ferment, especially if it's your first time. I would just say follow a recipe, experiment a few times, try some different flavors, and don't get discouraged if it doesn't work the first time. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned a little bit about fermented pickles and fermented vegetables rather than vinegar brined vegetables and pickles. Please like this video and subscribe if you like my content. It's completely free to do, free of charge. It's easy, it's free. There's no reason not to subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you in my next video.